Hello, bsmart viewers. Welcome back to another engaging episode of Manager's Mantra, where we connect with industry leaders who are shaping the future of business management. Today, we have with us Naveen Budda, co founder and CTO of KarmaLife AI, an AI driven fintech platform. Naveen has more than 2 decades of experience across artificial intelligence, machine learning, computer vision, mobile technology, and financial systems, and has been driving the use of data and AI systems to make financial access more inclusive and scalable. So, without waiting further, let's jump right into this insightful discussion. Hi, Naveen. A very good evening to you and a very warm welcome to this new session of Manager's Mantra. We are really glad to have you with us here today. And I'm sure this is going to be a very wonderful session, and the viewers would just love watching the session.
Hey, thank you, Abhishek, and thanks for having me here. So definitely do that. I'll share my experiences. Yeah.
So let's just get started with the questions to discuss, Naveen. My first question would be that the Indian about the Indian lending ecosystem, which has evolved rapidly with AI and alternative data. Now, what are the structural shifts that you see, which defines the next decade of fintech, and why should young MBAs care about it?
That's a nice question. Yeah, so I think the biggest structural shift is that lending is moving away from the distribution led to the intelligence led. Okay, so for a long time, what happens is the fintech has an advantage, came from the speed, faster onboarding, better UX, wider reach. Okay, over the next decade, the real edge will come only who has understanding the power of their customers better and make better decisions under the consented data. Okay, the cash flows behavior and real-time context. Okay, this is what actually the major shift I can see that. What makes India especially interesting is that, there's a very large population. I can say that, like 70% of our population are not covered in the formal traditional underwriting models. Okay, so many people have a real earning capacity, but not the kind of formal income documentation the older systems or the traditional systems has. Okay, so the opportunity is not just improving the traditional lending uh, workflows and all that. It is about rethinking the how the risk, trust, and the inclusion are designed. That is where the young MBAs, right? The new talent, the Gen Z, right? The way they think is completely different. Okay, the fintech today is no longer just like a finance story, right? It's set to the intersection of AI, product, regulation, operating systems, and human behavior, right? A lot of things comes in picture. So the future leaders in this space, who are the ones who understand not only how to grow the business, but how to make the decision faster and more efficiently. Okay, that is what the MBA students has to take it into consideration.
Naveen, how do you think is AI moving from automation to decision intelligence in financial services? And what does that mean for business models?
Cool. So the first phase of AI, right? Okay, in basically in the financial services was mostly about automations. Okay, so it helped institutions reduce the manual efforts in areas like onboarding, customer support, collection workflows, documentation handling, right, and internal operations and all that. So that was useful, but it was not still largely a more on the cost effective story only. Okay, now we are entering into a much more the important phase, right? Which is a decision intelligence. Okay, that means that AI is not just helping institution do working better, I mean faster. It is helping them decide better. It can influence who gets approved, how the risk is priced, okay, in the context, okay, when, where, and when to intervene the human interventions, okay, what is the which customer behave signals matters and all that, okay, how portfolios are monitored in real time, okay, that changes the business model in a much deeper way. If AI only lower the cost, the gain is incremental for sure. But if AI improves the decision quality, it changes the approval rates, loss rates, customer retentions, and even which segment better viable for the serve. Okay, so that is a structural shift, not just an operational upgrade. Okay, so I think the real question for the financial institution is no longer where the AI serve or how the AI will help them reduce the time. Okay, the more important question is where can AI improve in the decision making. Okay, so that is what important. Automation makes companies faster, but decision intelligence can make the fundamentally better. Okay, so who are the winners? Who has the more the power of the decisional intelligence? Yeah.
Thank you, Naveen, for sharing your insights on that. Naveen, we know, how highly regulated is finance, and now, slowly we are bringing AI in the decision-making systems. So, how should organizations build trust in AI-driven decision systems, especially in such a highly regulated sector like finance?
Yeah, that's a key point actually in the financial institutions. Okay, so normally in regulator finance, right, trust is not something we create. I mean, it is not a branding and all that. Okay, so it has to be built into the design into the systems. Okay, so my perspective is very simple. Trust has a four layers. First is a data trust. Okay, are we using the right data? Are we getting the right data with the proper consented quality, relevance, everything? And the second is the model test. Okay, so are we using a proper decision model? Okay, so we have understood it or not properly. Okay, so and testing and monitoring and challenges internally, right? Okay, so a lot of things will be there. So that is a model test. Next is a process test. Do we have a human review, execution handling, okay, audit trails and governance? See, majorly any regulated industry faces a problem is this is the area. Okay, so from it should be part of the design. It cannot be like after the latest stage checklist. Okay, so the process trust is very much important. And next is about the customer trust. Okay, so the customers will not be like happy that I'm getting a loan. The customers is always happy that okay, so why I have been given a loan or why I have not been given a loan, and how can I improve that? So that is the important the trust we have to build with the customers. Okay, so a lot of companies focus truly on the modeling, right? And okay, my model is very good compared to the others, my accuracy is better, right? Okay, but in finance, even a stronger model is not enough. If the institution cannot explain to the risk teams or risk system auditors, okay, compliance teams, regulators, right, or even the customers also, right, trust comes from an accountability, not from the confidence. Okay, so that's what I always see trust as a system problem, not as a branding problem. Okay, so the companies that will succeed AI in finance are the ones that can come intelligence and control and speed with accountability. So that is what majorly about the trust layers for me. In regulated finance, right, trust is not built by saying the model works and all that. It is built by proving the system is accountable or not. So that is what every finance the leader, right? I mean the MBA leader, right, who has to understand that okay, doing a growing a business is not only the one criteria for the regulated industry. Having an understanding the power of regulators is very much important. Yeah.
Uh, India is a country where the concern about income equality and inequality still remains. And now, when you build a product, a financial product, it's very difficult to build it up for to consider the gig and blue collar workers whose income is volatile and non-linear. How do you tackle that? How do you design financial products for them?
Yeah, so the first thing is that, right, we cannot design for the blue or a blue collar and gig workers, right, with a traditional salaried custom mindset. Okay, so that's the reason, right, many the traditional financial institutions are not able to serve them. Okay, so that as mentioned, right, in the income is often variable, season, platform driven, and affects by incentives, work frequencies, even local demand also, or even day-to-day conditions also, right? Heavy rains again. it will not work out, right? All that will be there. So if we apply that, okay, very strict financial product assumptions or the rule book, right? Okay, we'll end up either excluding good customers or giving them the products that do not fit into their reality fair. Okay, so that's where the right way to design here is that think in terms of a cash flow. Okay, not static income proofs. Okay, I mean, we need to know the understanding, the earning, the pattern, stability, bands, reputation, behavior, frequency of work, okay, and resilience over time, okay. That gives you a much more realistic view of financial capacity that a simple monthly income snapshot where it will fail. So this will give you that the cash flow. Okay. The second part is that the product design itself. Repayment needs to be feel flexible, okay, and align to how people actually earns. Okay, the product should not feel that okay, everyone have the same product. Okay, this is a product, okay, for you, for you, for you. It cannot be designed that way in this segment, at least. Okay, it has to be aligned. Okay, so my capacity, my context is different, so the repayments, okay, the loan offers, all that has to be aligned to the standards of that. Okay, so mainly, right, the real product question is not where the customer can fit in the product. It is whether the product can adopt to the customer's reality. So that is what we need to build it.
So now, Naveen, from a strategy lens, what are the biggest mistakes you think early stage fintech founders make when building AI native products in such highly regulated financial markets?
Okay, so basically, I majorly see, right, the biggest mistakes, is about confusing the technical capabilities, right, with the deployable capabilities. A founder may say that, hey, our model is better, smarter, okay, but in regulator finance, that is not only the beginning. Okay, so the real question is that, whether the system can be explained, monitored, governed, audited, right, and operationalized in the real world. Okay, that is what important. So majorly they fail. Most of the fintech founders fail there only. Okay, the second biggest mistake is that treating compliance as at a later stage checkpoint. Okay, instead of a design input from a day one. In a regulatory market, right, compliance is not the tax we pay that after the innovation and all that. Okay, so when we are innovating, right, the compliance has to be part of that. So that's what I always we believed in it, that the design, the compliance is a part of the design. That's where we are actually being the industry, serving lot of customers, right, in this segment for almost like a 7 years. The third mistake is optimizing too early for the growth. Okay, instead of decision quality, right? Okay, in basically in lending, that especially weak underwriting can look like success in the early months. Okay, the real problem shows up later. Okay, the defaults, customer distress, compliance, or regulatory pressure. So that is the reason, right, I always believe that, okay, when you start a business, right, it shows very, very lucrative, but it is not that. So when we say that, okay, the fintech or the lending space, right, is very successful after a year. Okay, this much of portfolio we have done that. Okay, that's what, optimizing too early is not worth in the uh, regulatory industries. Okay, so that's one of the biggest mistakes. I've seen that many companies have been shut down there. Okay, so my view is simple. If anybody is building like an AI native financial product, they have to build the intelligence layer and the enforcement layer together. Okay, never think that my growth is different and my regulators are different. Okay, that is what it is all about.
So Naveen, as the next bunch of corporate leaders who are being crafted in these B schools, they will be watching this video, and they would be loving to know that what are some of the opportunities that exists in this sector for them. So if you can throw some light on that, what are some of the most lucrative leadership opportunities for them in the AI native fintech sector? And we know that, opportunities, challenges will always come. So what are the challenges that they should be ready to face?
Sure. So, in my what I've seen, right, I would always say that most valuable for this the grads, right, okay, the business grads in this space will be that who can speak three languages. Okay, very fluently, understand and speak. So the languages are nothing but a business, the technology, and the regulation. If they know everything, they can speak these languages. Okay, they are leading it. Okay, so one of the on the business side, right, they need to understand, the unit economics, profile, portfolio behaviors, and how value is created over time. Okay, it is not a one time, right, because the value has to be created in a continuous efforts. Okay, on the technology side they should understand, how the data flows. Okay, what are the models used, okay, how the models are evaluated, what is a bias or a drift can appear, and how human judgment still matters, right? Okay, the people who stand out to be translating, right, okay, I mean sitting with the engineering team, the product team, the data team, right, the risk leaders, okay, the legal teams, even that is also very much important, and the business stakeholders, right, to still keep everyone aligned around the same decision problem. Okay, so in terms of that, right, okay, so they have a lot of opportunity and they can grow that. Okay, because earlier, before AI native, right, so the completely it is a different for them. Now after the AI has come into the picture, right, okay, so they have a lot of scope. Okay, how to deal with it. Okay, it is just not a growth. Okay, it is about, okay, how do they from beginning they mix, right, the growth, the regulators, okay, the decision engines, right, all that comes in picture. Okay, so that's why I always say that, the future belongs to these leaders, right, who can turn complexity into the systems that institutions can actually trust and use it. So they have to build the trust. Building the trust is not about a branding. Okay, they have to build it over the time. Okay, so there's a lot of uh, time it takes. So people have to patiently, work on that, lead that. Okay, so these are the some of the challenges, right? In other industry, will be like, very lucrative, right? It's like an incremental exponential growth will be there, but here, right, they'll see the results, right, after 4 years, 5 years. Okay, very drastic results. Okay, so that's what the fintech space or the lending space, right, okay, and the regulator space, right, has a lot of opportunities also, who has adopt to this environments.
Interesting answer, Naveen. Times have changed rapidly and it is still changing. And today, you have to work at the intersection of AI, product, and compliance. Now, therefore, what are the skills that MBA graduates should develop to work effectively at this intersection and then come out with flying colors?
Yeah, so in this new era, so I just definitely call this a new era, right? Yeah, I definitely will influence the financial sector, okay, very heavily. Okay, and as I mentioned already that, the intersection, right? Okay, so either a business side or the regulation side, right? So all they have to combine together. Okay, they have to understand that. Okay, so it is just not, the growth, right, identifying a segment, just, focusing on that. Okay, so they have to, bring the growth, the regulators, okay, and the technology all together. Okay, then only they'll see that, the space, where it is moving faster than, what they're expecting for that. Okay, so that's what I say, that, the compliance is one of the area, the governance, right? Okay, I do not know that there is a specifically defined it or not in the current curriculum and all that, but anybody wanted to work on the financial sector side, or I mean the regulatory side, right? The compliance is the must. Okay, so they have to understand, and it is just not a compliance. It is about, like, how the AI based compliance. Okay, that's what it will help them uh, uh, to grow further in this industries.
Thank you so much, Naveen. Let us talk about the, a future outlook a bit. No one can control the future, but the least we can do is be ready for it. And we know how AI has disrupted different businesses and economies. Now, going beyond AI, what do you think are some of the emerging trends in this space that young leaders should be aware of?
What I see is that, right, okay, in the regulatory industries, right, okay, so I mean, apart from the AI and all, as I already mentioned that, somebody who is more understanding on the governance part, right? Okay, how well they understand the regulator systems, right? Okay, how it works around that. Okay, so they'll be the key players. Okay, so that's what the make the difference from a the normal the leader and the fintech leader. Okay, or the regulator industry leaders, right? Who understands more about the compliance. Okay, and about the technologies, right? Okay, I mean, apart from the AI and all that, right? So the industry focus, right? So it could be a payment, or it could be the lending, or it could be any industry, right? Where it deals with the money, right? Okay, so everything has to be auditable. So wherever we deal with the money in the industry, in this industry, right? Okay, somebody understand very well about the compliance and uh, how to use that to grow it. Okay, there'll be the.
So, with that question, we come to the end of the conversation. Thank you once again, Naveen, for being there, taking out your precious time and participating in this session. We would love to stay in touch with you and then have you again for any of our future sessions of Be Smart Business Standard. Thank you so much, Naveen.
Thank you very much. Okay, one second. Yeah, bye bye. Take care.
That's a wrap on this episode of Manager's Mantra. Thank you, Naveen, for sharing your insights on how AI is driving fintech and providing career suggestions for management students. Be Smart viewers, we hope you found this conversation helpful. Share your thoughts with us at bsmart.edit@bsml.in. Follow us on LinkedIn and Instagram for more such insightful and inspiring content. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing.